Kohala Radio Volunteer and Operator Contract. All volunteers, including those who are not planning to be on the air, must understand and sign the Operator Contract, which reflects general guidelines for what the station expects of you and what you can expect of the station, and states in part, Kohala Radio agrees to highly value and respect your volunteer contribution, provide training and education for all new and current volunteers and operators, including keeping relevant documents and manuals available, provide a safe environment for all volunteers. Kohala Radio agrees to regularly update information in the Kohala Radio Training Manual and other sources about new FCC regulations and procedures, current and new station policies, new programs, technical procedures, and requirements. The programming director will notify you about air shift schedules and changes in operation procedures. Provide reasonable notice of schedule changes and shift preemption. Take responsibility for your shift if notified 48 hours in advance. The programming director will keep and make available to you a current list of all volunteers and contact information. The programming director will make every effort to keep the station and the equipment in good working order. Provide an open door for volunteers to discuss problems, complaints, or grievances, and constructively work with you in resolving any difficulties you encounter. Volunteers agree to read the Kohala Training Manual and agree to the following requirements as applicable. On-air operators must successfully complete the Kohala Radio Training Program before operating equipment on air. And the volunteer coordinator must certify and sign off that the operator has successfully shown knowledge of how to perform all the items in the on-air operator's checklist before going on air. A copy of this signed checklist must be entered into each operator's file. Volunteers agree to understand, support, and help Kohala Radio carry out its mission in the community. Abide by the rules and regulations of the FCC. It is the responsibility of all volunteers to know and understand these rules and regulations. Volunteers and operators agree to be a Kohala Radio donor each year and to sign a Kohala Radio waiver of liability and indemnification agreement prior to working at the station or the transmitter site. Kohala Radio volunteers and operators agree to work on off-air projects. The survival of an all-volunteer station depends on all shift operators doing support work outside their airtime. The amount of off-air time expected is at least equivalent to the on-air time. Volunteers and operators agree to take responsibility for your scheduled airtime. Your scheduled airtime shift begins 1/2 hour before you are on the air. This includes finding a qualified substitute for your shift if you're unable to make it. The programming director must be notified 24 hours in advance of any shift replacement. When doing an air shift, stay at the station until the next air shift operator arrives, a substitute is found, or other arrangements are made. Missing more than 10% of your scheduled air shifts in any quarter of a year will result in a review by the programming committee. Operators must attend all scheduled programming meetings or make arrangements to meet with the programming director to be updated on current requirements. Follow all policies in the Kohala Training Manual now or in the future, which are not explicitly stated here. Operators and volunteers have a responsibility for knowing and following the current policies of the station and the FCC. Airshift operators working alone have responsibility for the security of the building. No one, however, is expected to put the physical safety of the station above their own. Correctly operate and exercise care with the physical apparatus at the station. This includes making transitions smoothly, refiling records or equipment in the proper location, and cleaning up your work area upon completion of a shift. Volunteers agreed to absolutely no food or drink is allowed inside any of our 3 studios. Smoking tobacco is allowed only at the far northwest corner of the radio property. Consuming no alcohol or illegal drugs within 2 hours prior to or during any broadcast show. All volunteers are expected to work well together with a friendly, respectful, and constructive attitude. Accept and consider evaluations provided by other members of the station. Promptly sign any modifications or amendments to this agreement as required by the General Managing Group. This contract will continue in perpetuity, provided, however, that it may be terminated upon review in the event that an on-air operator violates any of the conditions set out herein.